What it do, ladies? This your girl, Miss Danny Baby, back one more again with another video. Today I want to discuss a topic regarding validation. And when I'm speaking of validation, I'm speaking of validation of the Black woman and how the issues with validation starts with her mother. The times that I've really seen it discussed on any deeper level, it's usually the pros and cons of a feminist perspective. Feminists, a lot of them, as a habit and in history, a lot of them, well, I won't say a lot. I'll take that back, because we have the bell hooks and of the world, where she actually was very demonstrative and outspoken about the need for validation and the importance for Black women to be heard. However, as a general rule, a lot of feminists, I feel, speak on their lack of need for validation from their male counterparts and, the men of the world. And while as a woman, I don't think I should solely depend on any type of validation from any man whatsoever on this planet. I don't care who he is. But as a social group and a social dynamic, it is important for the female gender to get some upliftment and validation from her male counterpart. But more importantly, it's important for her to receive validation from her parents. And more importantly than that, from her mom, since her mom is the first teacher. And when we think of things like that, it's so many things to come to mind. My mind just spirals out of control, really, and it's hard to be really concise. I'm the type of person rather, that when something hits me, it's like 10,000 thoughts come into my mind all at once, and my mouth can't speak as fast as how my mind is thinking. So it's just kind of weird. Bear with me. But when I'm speaking of validation, I can speak from personal experience. I consider myself a pretty confident woman. I've accomplished a lot of things in life, and I desire, as a Generation Xer, to accomplish a lot more. I'm not one of those people once you're 30 and out, you're done for, just shut it down. Don't think about nothing else, but just sitting your ass down. No. I'll be 70 and still thinking about dreams and accomplishments and endeavors that I can, reach for. So that's that. However, it's been an uphill battle, and it has not been easy. I'm the type of woman that walks with a certain air of confidence and a certain air of determination. But when people see that, they think that you haven't had any challenges, as far as your family dynamic and how your mom has interacted with you coming up. So that's what I basically want to speak on. And I can bet you that tons of ladies have felt the same thing. When I'm speaking of validation, this is not asking as a Black woman for permission to exist. I don't need permission from anybody to exist. Okay, let's get that clear. It's just, and we don't need permission to breathe air. It's just wanting acknowledgement and wanting to be heard, and hoping that parents of the future can make the changes that are necessary to validate their children and to mold and cultivate healthy human beings that have an easier time emotionally and mentally as they, grow up and deal with this world. Just in observation, being a Black child and being a Black girl child, and seeing my mom and how she dealt with her situations, and seeing aunties and grandma and them, and other older women of my friends, interface with the world. It just seems like it's a collective agenda to keep Black women's self-esteem and self-actualization and knowledge of self to a bare minimum, if any at all, in order to lower the class of women, the group of women, and speaking of Black women in particular, to keep their expectations low. And so she won't expect anything greater outside of herself and from this world. And I think that's because there's so many low expectations in the Black community in general. This isn't to say that 110% of Black people are losers and everybody's neglecting their little girl children, but I'm sorry, I have to keep it real and keep it funky. A large percentage, I would even dare say most, even though there's those that are raise their babies healthy, but I would dare say most are not giving girl children the proper cultivation that they need in order to be the women that they can be as they get older. And when girl children lack this type of validation, it leads to bad decision making throughout their entire life, unless they can catch it and stop it in its tracks. But once the momentum starts going and homegirl is on a certain path, it's very hard to get out of that cycle. It really is, especially when she's dealing with her social interaction with males romantically and whatnot. It's very, very hard to come out of that. And the internal subconscious of the girl child, she has a warped sense of self, believing that she doesn't deserve better because her mom hasn't taught her that she deserves better in a lot of cases. When you don't feel that you deserve better, you can have a child that is a codependent, has a very codependent personality, starts adopting these people pleaser types of personality traits, where she's always feeling that she has to sacrifice herself to be a people pleaser to keep people around her. And that's very unhealthy. And anybody that gives a damn about their girl children wouldn't want a girl child believing that this is the way that she has to conduct herself in order to gain friends, or in order to be successful, or in order to have people like her, or in order to have a healthy romantic relationship. Or, it's okay if you're in a relationship or are interacting with people where there's reciprocity. But without reciprocity, you're just on a codependent type of energy, and you're very susceptible of being taken advantage of. And, that leads to toxicity in the girl child as she grows up to into a grown woman. It's just a severe lack of self-love. And it keeps the girl child living in a state of lack. She becomes accustomed to it. She becomes used to it. Dudes can come in and out of her life, not bringing anything to her. They don't feel like it's necessary, because she's a what do you call that? Just a self-surviving machine. Cola Booth is a famous author who's known for the phrase that the Black girl child, the Black woman, is the only female on the planet that is expected to bloom without being watered. The only group of people on this planet The only female people on this planet that is expected to bloom unwatered. That's not, that type of pressure is not put on other groups of women. I'm just going to keep it funky. You know, perfection is expected out of girl children, and a certain type of way to conduct themselves, to be the perfect mate, the perfect woman, the perfect intellectual, the perfect worker, the perfect employee, the perfect humanitarian, sacrificing of the self. But despite these expectations, with everybody taking and without any reciprocity and giving to this girl entity, it's like she folds in on herself, you know, eventually. That's basically what happens without any intervention. And it gets even worse when you talk about love relationships. She's very susceptible of having sex and intercourse with beings that do not care for her, because she's reaching out and trying to find that love with mirrored back to her that wasn't mirrored to her as a child. And see, children, as a rule, they're human beings that come into this plane of existence needing their nurturing from their parents, most especially mom. And when they look at the adults in their lives, they don't see the adults outside of themselves. They're looking and searching inside of that adult's eyes, hoping to find a reflection or some type of image that's positive, that's reflected back to them. And for the neglectful moms out there that do not feel it's really necessary to put anything of substance into their children, and in this case we're speaking of girl children, the girl child knows that there is lack there. She can't verbalize it or really intellectualize it when she's younger, but she just knows how that feels. And if you grow up for years and years without that motherly love and encouragement and feeling of that eternal love for you, then you'll seek sources for it. And the closest thing the way to get that is likely through some type of male or romantic relationship. And we know how that goes. It makes the girl child basically food out here for predators in the Black community. The Black collective, the energy is very narcissistic when it comes to its children, period. And when I think of narcissism, and when I say narcissistic, I'm speaking of the vampiric energy. We take a lot out of our children without putting much into them in many, many cases, and expect a miracle when we haven't put the effort into them. Okay. Let's see here. And when you become a people pleaser, it's hard for you to develop the strength to say no in a lot of cases. If you have the type of mom or parent that doesn't allow you to have a voice, it's like you get that children are to be seen, not heard type of mentality. My mom was pretty strict with me, especially me being the oldest child. And the first grandchild. All eyes were on me in the sense that I'm going to get some act right. When I was coming along, being that female child, it was just like an unspoken rule. She didn't really give a damn about my feelings on a lot of things. And I can go into some of those things more and more detail in a later video, but I'll just say that freedom of thought wasn't really encouraged. It wasn't encouraged, and speaking your mind was frowned upon, no matter how respectful it, that it was. And that's what channeled me into becoming a writer as a small child. As soon as I was able to write, I would write down thoughts that I was feeling, especially if I was upset or sad or, felt some type of inner turmoil. It was like the paper and the pen gave me the freedom to write down or, draw things that I was feeling. And, I'm at least thankful for that, because I like to write even to this day. But that's how it really started. Because I always like to read. I learned to read fast as a child, but being frustrated and having so many bottled up emotions, writing was really an outlet for me. And what I've noticed is that a lot of Black mothers in particular, they don't like to compliment their daughters. It's this belief, it's like this cult belief mentality inside the Black community, and the women pass it on, that we don't want her getting a big head, or we don't want her getting too full of herself and thinking she all that. So a lot of Black mothers withhold compliments, and it doesn't even have to be on your beauty. It could be on your talents. It could be on your interests. It can be on your intellect, your how smart you are, how good you're able to accomplish a certain task. A lot of these Black mothers, they will withhold that type of validation from their girl children. And don't get me started on any type of like beauty compliments or anything like that. And it's odd and it's ironic. They're so scared Black women are going to get that big head, but Black women are the least promoted and nurtured and validated as a whole in this society and the world. So if you're still, even though that's going on, and every other ethnic group of women is promoted, but you're still so scared that girl children are going to get the big head, that means like it's a concerted effort, and it's almost like some type of conspiracy almost, that the women have been brainwashed into adopting, is to keep girl children down, because they don't want them to maximize their real potential, their real essence, and they don't want them to realize their real inner power and strength, and that could be because being that Black women are so they're not a protected class of women, but they're very cult-like, and a lot of them are unwilling to venture out into the world in any way. In any way, except where it comes, if they have to work somewhere, maybe on that level, but in any other way, trying to dibble and dab in different other cultures, different type of interest that is not normally associated with the Black community. It's like they want the Black girl child to keep a certain mentality, a certain devotion to her Black family and to her Black social group, so that she doesn't venture out, and it's less threat of her leaving. Now, that fear isn't so great for boy children. Boy children are encouraged to expand their horizons. If you want to go and live in China, young man, go live in China. If you want to go and be an astronaut, if you're able and smart enough to do so, go and be an astronaut. If you want to go play football or basketball, or if you want to go rap, or if you want to go do anything that occurs to the Black boy child's mind, I'm not saying that he has perfect parents either, or that the black mother has been perfect and all good and decent in her rearing of him either, but it's more accepted of him being open to opportunities available to him, whereas the girl child is not so accepted. They want her to be boxed in and more closed-minded and more really tied, like yoked and chained to the black collective. And without validation, without thinking she's quote unquote all of that, without her thinking that she can so-called get along in other ecosystems, it's like, well, we don't have to worry about her. She'll always be here for us. And again, that speaks to that narcissism that's in the black in the black sphere. It's really sad. I remember when I first left home to go to the military when I was younger. Years later, it comes out my younger sister was mad because I left. She felt like I left and abandoned her. When I first got actually it was my second apartment when I was younger, my mom came and moved in with me. It was just like it was many events that led me to this conclusion, but it was almost like making sure that I was always tied to the family unit, even though it was very dysfunctional and abusive in many ways. Like I said before, girl children are not appreciated when they try to think outside the box, reach outside the box, and think outside of the what is normally considered the black collective. I'm not saying that all black people do all the same exact things, but I'm just talking about a majority and what I've experienced and what I've seen even in other people, because I'm not even speaking just on my own life. It's what I've seen, and I've been able to see it for a few decades in my life of existence on this planet Earth. So it's to keep her self-esteem low so that she won't go far. Because of course the black community needs someone to hold it down. And I think when it comes to holding it down, the black girl child is expected to do that more than anybody. That's not an expectation of black males. Only black females. So I feel that black mothers are in cahoots when it comes to restraining and chaining black children down. And let's see. And again, to the point, I think it's just really ironic and odd that, it's everybody's fear that the black woman is going to the black girl child is going to grow up to be a black woman that's conceited and full of herself. And, because, she gets a few compliments here and there. Yet, again, the black woman is the least promoted woman on this planet. It's just crazy. And also I've noticed is that a lot of times other women, a lot of older women, but even in your women in your own age group, hate to see a woman that they perceive as having confidence. And isn't that weird? They've been beat down mentally and emotionally by the female elders in their family, especially their moms. Their moms have called them everything but a child of God, has not cultivated them and uplifted them whatsoever as children. And it was something that they craved and wished for as children and as young women. But when they get older, they will look at you or even another woman that they perceive as having some type of confidence or some type of drive or determination, and will be offended. And that's something. They'll be offended and will work against you in order to try to bring you down a notch or two, or to see your face cracked, or to see you, they want those black girl tears. I'm telling you, it's just like an energy out here that wants to see black girl tears and to see the black woman cry. And it could even be girlfriends of yours, sister friends, people out there that you thought was cool, people that you work with, and most especially, it could definitely be your own mother, sister, cousin. So many people that have energy that's working against you. It's just way crazy because they think that you may be getting too big for your britches. And another thing too, also, people wonder why there's such an epidemic of low self-esteem black girls and black women. There's been an increase of suicide with black children, and there is no exception with the girl child. An increase of suicide, an increase of bad decision making, pairing with unhealthy males in their lives, unhealthy decisions as far as beautification to themselves, all to capture the black male gaze, but at the same time, these black males are laughing at them. There's been videos where I've seen people admitting that their girl children are going to school with little boys like in fourth and fifth grade, that said that they don't like black girls. It's very insidious, and it's really becoming out in the open. Think of what's that dude name? Is it that Smiley, Ricky Smiley, the comedian Ricky Smiley, his son. He was on a public, nationally public show, reality show, where he was talking about he doesn't like black women or black girls, women that look like himself. And he's a young dude as well. And he's not the only one. He's not the last. He's not the first. And this is not to get in a discussion about what black males' preferences are, because at this point, I really don't care about that. My point is the health of the girl children that are witnessing this. Despite the lack of hands-on love and dedication that I should have received from my mom, and where she was neglectful and lacking in a lot of respects, at least as a girl child. When I went to school in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, I didn't hear this nonsense from young boys my own age, like, oh, we don't like black girls. But this is compounded with the girls of 2018. These little girls are going through some shit. And if they're seeing this from their male peers, they're getting dogged by their female peers their own age as they are little and get older. And then their mom is not giving them the promotion, and they're lacking in validation and upliftment from the person that birthed them into this world. Their moms don't give a shit. These moms don't even help their girls with grooming. Not only are they not telling them that they're beautiful, or that they're smart, or that they're capable of doing things in their lives, they're not even helping them to enhance themselves properly. These women don't even care. Like I said, they're afraid of you getting a big head and thinking you all that. So they purposefully do not help you beautify yourself or to do more feminine things like other races of women teach their daughters and their children. I'm so glad I have not birthed into this world, into this existence that is Earth right now. But if I had a girl child, believe you me, I'd make sure that she had the highest self-esteem possible. And when I say high self-esteem, I'm not talking about just being conceited and arrogant for no reason, with not putting in any work or any effort to get the accolades and the acknowledgement that you crave. But if you give birth to a child, that child, at least from step one, they deserve love for you, for being carried and being born here as your child. That should be a starting point. But not only are these moms not giving their girl children that, they're neglecting them. These girls don't have any idea to, some of them, horrible hygiene, horrible ways of fixing their hair. They have a very dysmorphic view of their bodies, their skin color, how to fix their hair where it's flattering on them but still looks like them. And I'm not against hair extensions or weaves, occasionally just wanting to switch it up, or, using something different, lashes, nails, or whatever. But a lot of girl children and young Black women are not accentuating their beauty in a natural way that's flattering to them. That's because Mommy Dearest don't give a damn, and she's hoping that you look busted. I'm going to keep it real. It's a lot of moms out here that are jealous of their girl children. And we'll speak on that in future videos. But it's sad. It's disturbing. And like I said, a mom is a co-conspirator in this paradigm that she herself is a slave to. She's a slave to it her damn self, and is miserable up under the yoke of non-validation in the Black community. Yet, to make herself feel better because she has a sadistic side to her, she'd rather suffer her own misery and pain as long as she can see you suffer along with her. That's deep, y'all. Think about that. And one more thing, as far as media promotion and validation, seeking and entertainment for girl children and young women and women in general in the entertainment business, man, forget it. In my opinion, and with my observation, actually a lot of the music that has been being pumped out since the 90s until present day has had a horrible detrimental effect to Black girl children and the youth, because the music, whether it's R&B, hip-hop, rap, whatever, you name it, from Black artists, it has not been uplifting to the Black female archetype or her image, her presence, anything. When she's being talked about in a lot of music, it's very carnal and it's very basic. So when I talked about that girl child that looks, a child period, but we're talking about girl children here, and a child is looking into their mom's eyes to see a reflection of themselves, aka a positive reflection reflected back to them, and they're not getting that. And like I said before, they go out into the world seeking that. They don't even know that's what they're doing subconsciously. It's like they're on this program to seek what they did not receive. So it's very easy for these girl children to get caught up into music as they're reaching adulthood and in adulthood, with messages that are give them cognitive dissonance, but at the same time they absorb it because the music is carnal. When a black artist is usually addressing her, or what could be perceived as addressing her, a lot of it's not in a real loving way. Now, of course, I'm not saying 100% of music, 100% of rap, or 100% of R&B, but a lot of it. I mean, I've been listening, then heard a song or two by Tank. He's supposed to be a love song person. A lot of his stuff recently, Trey songs. Listen to a lot of that stuff. And then the stuff that where he's bigging up people, look at the videos. They don't look like little black women, young black women. It doesn't have your image. So it's like it's giving you the idea that you're fuckable, you're poundable, you're good enough to be a side chick and a side bitch, somebody that's able to give sexual relief to another entity, but you're not really that sister that's being admired for anything that she has to offer beyond what you can do physically for them. And that's, whether it's just being the maid or being the sexual slave. Think about that. It's really, and I'll probably list some song examples at the bottom of this video, but it's very different. That's not to say that black men weren't on some bullshit in the 60s and 70s. Of course they were. Fake ass, oh man, don't even get me started on some of these civil rights people from back in the day. However, at least in a lot of the music, the woman could at least imagine that the black male was speaking love songs to her and that her image was being desired. She could at least imagine that, lie to herself even. Not to say that that's healthy, but there were love songs. Think of Marvin Gaye. God, some of his music in 2018, I'll still be bumping that shit in 2050. That brother was fire. As far as like a lot of his ballads and things that he spoke about in music, it was like the artists were speaking from the soul and giving the women of their group some hope. That's not to say that other women of other groups couldn't enjoy it also, because they very much well did. But later on, the musicians it seemed like it was a purposeful and concerted effort to discount the validity of black womanhood. That's one reason why I can't get with Prince all the way. I think he did a lot of damage. He's just an example of an artist that boldly, and even though nobody spoke on it and nobody said nothing, especially, his kind, as far as like black men were concerned, wouldn't say nothing. Of course not, because he was the man that they wanted to be, as far as the access that he had to anything but a black woman. But again, that's neither here nor there. This video is not about the black male gaze per se. I'm just not really interested in that at this point. I'm interested in the health of black girl children and black women as a whole. However, I have to go back. In order to draw certain conclusions, you have to go back to origins. And I'm sure this dislike of black womanhood even goes older and older and older than we can even imagine. But from the history that I can see or that I've experienced, I wasn't around when Marvin Gaye was making music. I at least say like his early music, but even his early music, some of those ballads, man, I can bump even today. Teddy Pendergrass, and even when they talked sexy, some of these Luther Vandross, even when they talked sexy or were titillating in some of their language, the language at least wasn't like demeaning or assaulting, to black womanhood or to the ears of black girls and women. But today, since the 90s, it's been total. I won't say total, but a large degree of disrespect that these female children have consumed. And as they're growing up into black womanhood and trying to see that reflection of love given back to them, they seek it from males that don't even see them as viable or worthy romantic partners. So what they do is capitulate and accept mediocrity in the form of sex, just being, somebody's sexual release, because that's all you feel like, you're good for, when you're not receiving that validation in your femininity and in your girlhood and your uniqueness as a Black woman. Prince, his music, he was a great artist. I'm not talking about that his music itself was necessarily bad, but the images he portrayed and like his videos, his partners. No, a Black girl child couldn't see herself in that. He totally like erased the Black girl image in most things that he did. Michael Jackson is another example. We can go on and on with these dudes, how harmful they have been, and how the Black mother has been complicit and very neglectful in helping her child combat these things and these enemies and these bad images that have been assaulting her mind. So that's something that I had to bring to the table as well. And like I said before, backtracking a little bit, it puts this energy into a girl child that she doesn't have any self-direction and any inner compass where she is the master and the captain of her own life. She's not allowed to say no and tell people like, okay, Mom, you can't move in with me. No, Mom, no, Annie, no, sis, I'm not doing this or that just because you want me to. I did this or that last time. Why are you always asking me? Why are you always trying to drain me? The backbiting and the disloyalty that a lot of women have towards their girl children, speaking ill of them to other family members or to outside parties, to try to have to have other people looking at the girl children and their family, cross-eyed and sideways. I've seen that in so many dynamics. It's just crazy in my family and outside in other people's family. It's like a collective effort. They feel like I don't have the self-determination and the high self-esteem and I didn't get to accomplish my goals. How dare you try to step out the box and be different from us? So that's the motivation. It's like a machine to keep Black children down. And the point for me bringing up this topic, and I may speak on it, I'm sure I'll speak on it in other videos, is because I want women to be self-aware and to have some self-awareness. If you're going to be bold enough to bring children into this world, and if you have girl children, it's your responsibility to give them the validation that they need, and give them the reassurance and inner self-empowerment to be able to make their own decisions and to be able to say no to people that are vamping off of them and people that don't serve them and don't bring any type of benefit into their lives. A girl child is not here to be the world's maid, but that's what it seems like. She's born and bred to be used to everybody else's liking but her own. And what kills me is that these women know the pain of this. They know the inner turmoil that this causes, but yet they don't mind putting that strain and that heartache on their own children. And so if you're a female and you've been birthed into this type of environment, if you have to get therapy, do so. If you have to break away and keep your distance from certain family members and friends, I say do so. Don't be ashamed for making decisions that are make you a better person and make you feel more inner peace and healthier on the inside. You being born into this realm, into this 3D existence, is for you to self-actualize, learn who you are, and to do what's best for you. I'm not saying be a jerk and not do for people that care about you and people that are kind to you and do for you and validate you. Of course, you should reach out and, you know, try to uplift other people, but make sure that they're uplifting you at the same time. Because there is a lack of reciprocity in the Black community towards girl children and Black women. It's prevalent, it's epidemic. There is no reciprocity, or very little. I won't say no, but very little reciprocity whatsoever. It's like the community feels that we're born to do it ourselves. And then when we adopt this independent fuck you mentality, then people are mad at that as well. So go figure. But do you, ladies, do what you need to do to be healthy. And like I said, don't let nobody make you feel guilty for doing what you have to do to be healthy. And also, if you dare take on the spiritual responsibility of raising a girl child, that's a spiritual contract that you have agreed to. If you birth one into this existence, make sure that you put in the energy and the effort to make sure that you can raise and cultivate her into being a healthy human being that can interface with the other beings on this planet, in this world. Okay? So that's just my word for today. I think next I'm going to talk about, how this lack of validation plays into pregnancy, man, and having babies out of term. But that's a whole nother show. But in the meantime, you guys have a great evening. Talk to you later. Peace.